Could a video lasting only 13 seconds truly be powerful enough to shake the concept of privacy, trigger a corporate-level response from a giant like HYBE, and cause millions of ARMY around the world to react almost simultaneously? Or is there something far bigger, quieter, and more unsettling that has long been hidden behind Taehyung's smile and Jungkook's seemingly simple behavior? That question exploded across the digital public sphere within hours, spreading rapidly from one timeline to another, crossing languages and time zones, until it dragged into the spotlight an issue long considered taboo to discuss openly: the privacy of Taehyung and Jungkook, two global figures whose every movement is almost always under scrutiny. There was no lengthy official announcement, no grand press conference, not even a statement filled with firm wording. What existed was only a short video, a simple compilation of clips, and one keyword that suddenly became the center of serious debate: privacy. At first glance, the video appears nearly harmless. Lasting around 13 seconds, it is a compilation showing Jungkook inside what looks like a private gym or workout room. He is wearing a dark long-sleeve top, standing in a pose that many fans instantly found adorable, almost childlike, yet unmistakably him. From time to time, his eyes glance toward the camera, and at other moments toward Taehyung, as if there is an unspoken dialogue between them. Over the clip, an overlay caption appears repeatedly with a line that has now become a small icon among fans: "When JK need Tae's attention." That simple sentence, perhaps originally meant as lighthearted humor, unexpectedly became the spark for a far more complex discussion. Why did Jungkook seem to be trying so hard to get Taehyung's attention? Was this merely the familiar dynamic of friendship that ARMY has long recognized, or was there another layer of meaning that not everyone was ready to confront? And most surprisingly of all, why did the issue of privacy suddenly become entangled in this moment? So much so that HYBE, a company known for being extremely cautious in managing its artists' images and personal lives, was said to have taken notice. ARMY's reaction was almost instantaneous. Within minutes of the video spreading widely, comment sections were flooded with mixed emotions. There was laughter, a sense of fondness, nostalgia for the long-known interactions between Taehyung and Jungkook that have always felt natural. Yet alongside that warmth, unease began to surface. Some fans started asking in a more serious tone whether moments like these should continue to be consumed publicly. Had the line between entertaining content and invasion of privacy begun to blur? These questions grew sharper when HYBE's name entered the conversation. Not because of a long, officially published statement, but due to subtle signals, quiet hints suggesting that the company was beginning to pay closer attention to how Taehyung and Jungkook's personal interactions were being interpreted by the public. For some ARMY, this felt like a warning. For others, it sparked suspicion. Why now? Why this video, and not the hundreds of similar moments in the past? To understand why the reaction became so intense, one must step back and look at the broader context. Taehyung and Jungkook are not just two members of BTS. They represent two energies, two personalities, and two emotional presences that are different, yet deeply complementary. Taehyung, with his calm, artistic, and often mysterious aura, is frequently perceived as emotionally mature and introspective. Jungkook, on the other hand, is known for his explosive energy, spontaneity, and his openness in expressing affection and attachment toward those closest to him. This dynamic has long been part of BTS's beloved narrative. But once a major company begins to reference privacy, that narrative shifts tone. Interactions that were once seen purely as sweet and entertaining are suddenly viewed through a more critical lens. Have we, as viewers, gone too far? Has our laughter masked the reality that behind the screen are real human beings with real emotional boundaries? Some fans attempted to read the video more deeply. They examined Jungkook's body language, the way he stood, the direction of his gaze, even the tiny pauses that are almost invisible. Some argued that Jungkook's attempt to capture Taehyung's attention reflected a closeness and comfort that cannot be fabricated. Others felt that this very closeness was the issue. Intimacy that is too frequently displayed can lead the public to feel entitled to something that should remain personal. Here is where privacy becomes the eye of the storm. HYBE, as a corporate entity, occupies a complicated position. On one hand, the natural interactions among BTS members are a key part of their appeal, indirectly fueling popularity and fan loyalty. On the other hand, the company carries legal and ethical responsibilities to protect its artists from excessive exposure, including emotional exploitation. When the word privacy began echoing, many ARMY felt personally affected. Some felt the company was interfering too much in how fans expressed their love. Others felt this was a long overdue step. Discussions turned into heated debates. Hashtags emerged, opinions flew everywhere, and every fragment of wording from any side was analyzed like an academic text loaded with hidden meaning. Ironically, amid all of this, the 13-second video continued to be replayed millions of times. Each replay seemed to add another layer of interpretation. Jungkook's glance toward the camera was no longer seen as merely cute, but vulnerable. Taehyung, the focus of that attention, was no longer just calm, but a figure bearing immense emotional expectations from both his groupmate and the public. I asked this the greatest surprise of all, that a lighthearted moment could open a serious discussion about the ethics of consuming idol content? Or is the true shock the collective realization among ARMY that love, when too intense, can turn into pressure? Several pop culture analysts began to speak up, attempting to explain the phenomenon in more academic terms. They pointed out that the K-pop industry, especially BTS as a global phenomenon, has long operated on a thin line between openness and privacy. Strong parasocial relationships make fans feel close and emotionally involved. But that closeness comes at a cost. Every smile, every look, every small gesture can be interpreted, reframed, and turned into a narrative that lives independently of the artist's control. In this context, the video of Jungkook and Taehyung becomes a kind of case study. Not because of its sensational content, but because of the reaction it provoked. When HYBE referenced privacy, it was not merely responding to a single video, but signaling a broader concern, one about how the boundary between entertainment and intrusion is becoming increasingly blurred. Of course, not all ARMY accepted this narrative easily. Many felt that Jungkook and Taehyung's happiness was clearly visible in moments like these. They rejected the idea that every expression needed to be shielded from the public. For them, context mattered most. As long as there was no sign of discomfort from either idol, why should it be a problem? This is where emotion takes center stage. The discussion ceased to be cold or rational and became deeply personal. Many fans felt cornered, as if their affection was suddenly being suspected as wrongdoing. There was sadness, anger, and confusion. Why was something long celebrated now being questioned? Meanwhile, those urging caution emphasized that it is precisely because of love that privacy matters. They stressed that Taehyung and Jungkook, no matter how famous, are still human. Their relationship, however close, should not be endlessly consumed. To them, the 13-second video was a reminder that even small moments can carry significant consequences, and perhaps this is where the quietest surprise lies. Not in the video itself, not in ARMY's explosive reaction, but in the fact that the industry and fans alike are now being forced to reflect. Are we ready to change how we see idols? Are we ready to accept that not everything needs to be known, analyzed, or discussed? To this day, there is no definitive answer. The video continues to circulate, discussions persist, and the issue of Taehyung and Jungkook's privacy remains a hot topic. But one thing is clear: those 13 seconds have opened a conversation far longer, deeper, and more emotional than anyone ever imagined. The conversation does not end there, because beneath the surface of this controversy lies a deeper tension that has been quietly building for years, long before this 13-second clip ever appeared. It is the tension between visibility and protection, between the demand to see everything and the responsibility to know when to stop looking. In the era of hyperconnectivity, where every second can be captured, clipped, reposted, and reframed, Idols like Taehyung and Jungkook exist in a paradoxical space. They are expected to be authentic, yet endlessly available, private, yet constantly transparent. What makes this moment especially charged is not only the content of the video, but the timing. BTS, as individuals and as a group, are navigating a phase where maturity, independence, and personal identity are becoming more pronounced. Fans are no longer watching teenagers or rookies finding their footing, but global artists who have lived under intense observation for more than a decade. Every shift in their behavior is magnified, every subtle change interpreted as a sign of something larger. In that environment, even a playful attempt by Jungkook to capture Taehyung's attention can be read as symbolic, loaded with meaning far beyond its original intent. Some ARMY have begun to question whether the industry itself has trained fans to look too closely. For years, intimacy has been part of the product. Behind-the-scenes footage, reality shows, live broadcasts, and candid moments were encouraged as ways to build trust and emotional connection. That strategy worked almost too well. The bond between BTS and their fans became one of the strongest in modern pop culture, but it also created expectations that may no longer be sustainable. When HYBE subtly invokes the idea of privacy, it feels to some like a sudden change of rules in a game everyone thought they understood. This is why the reaction feels so explosive. It is not just about Taehyung and Jungkook. It is about the unspoken contract between idols, companies, and fans. Who decides what is acceptable to share? Who draws the line when affection becomes exposure? And perhaps most uncomfortable of all, who bears responsibility when that line is crossed? Emotionally, many fans find themselves torn. They want to protect Taehyung and Jungkook, yet they also want to celebrate the bond that made them fall in love with BTS in the first place. They replay the video not out of malice, but out of affection. Yet affection, when multiplied by millions, becomes something heavier. It becomes pressure. It becomes expectation. It becomes a force that even the strongest artists must carry. There is also an unspoken fear woven into these discussions, the fear of loss. If privacy is enforced more strictly, will fans lose access to the moments that made BTS feel human and close? Will interactions become more guarded, more polished, less spontaneous? For some, that possibility feels like the end of an era. For others, it feels like a necessary evolution, a sign that the artists they love are finally being allowed to breathe. Academically, this situation highlights a shift in how celebrity culture is being renegotiated in real time. The boundaries are no longer dictated solely by companies or media outlets, but by collective behavior. When a short clip can spark global debate, it proves how fragile and powerful these ecosystems have become. Every reaction feeds the algorithm. Every opinion adds fuel, and silence itself can be interpreted as a statement. Taehyung and Jungkook, notably, remain silent through all of this. Their silence is perhaps the loudest element in the entire situation. It leaves space for projection, for interpretation, for hope and anxiety to coexist. Some see it as calm confidence, others as quiet endurance. Either way, it reinforces the central truth that has been overshadowed by discourse. They did not ask for this moment to become a battlefield, and yet, from that silence emerges an opportunity for fans to redefine what support truly looks like. Is it constant attention or conscious restraint? Is it endless analysis or respectful distance? These are not easy questions, and there is no single correct answer. But the fact that they are being asked at all marks a turning point. As the clip continues to circulate and the debates continue to evolve, one thing becomes increasingly clear. This was never just about a playful gesture in a gem or a caption meant to be funny. It was about the weight of being seen too much and the courage it takes to step back and reconsider how we watch, how we love, and how we participate. In the end, the story of those 13 seconds may not be remembered for the video itself, but for what it forced into the open. A collective pause, a moment of reflection, a realization that behind every viral clip are real people whose lives do not begin and end on our screens. And so the question lingers, unresolved and deeply human. If we truly care about Taehyung and Jungkook, are we willing to love them not only in the moments they share with us, but also in the moments they choose to keep for themselves? The question hangs in the air because it refuses to be answered quickly, and perhaps that is precisely why this moment feels so heavy. In a culture that thrives on immediacy, where reactions are expected within seconds and opinions form before context fully settles, being forced to sit with uncertainty is deeply uncomfortable. Yet, that discomfort may be the most honest outcome of this entire episode. It exposes how accustomed audiences have become to instant access, and how rarely they are asked to pause and reconsider their role within the ecosystem they help sustain. What complicates matters further is that Taehyung and Jungkook have never positioned themselves as distant or untouchable figures. On the contrary, their openness over the years has been one of the pillars of BTS's global appeal. They laughed freely, teased each other openly, and allowed fans to witness fragments of their daily lives that many artists would fiercely guard. This history makes any discussion of privacy feel emotionally charged, almost like a betrayal of an unspoken intimacy that fans believed was mutual. Yet intimacy that is shared willingly in certain moments does not erase the right to boundaries in others, a nuance that is often lost when millions of eyes are involved. There is also a generational element at play. Younger fans, raised in an era where sharing is normalized and oversharing is often rewarded, may view the video as harmless, even comforting. Older fans, or those more attuned to the long-term consequences of constant exposure, might see warning signs. Neither perspective is inherently wrong, but the clash between them fuels the intensity of the discourse. The 13-second clip becomes a canvas onto which different values, fears, and hopes are projected. As discussions deepen, some observers note how quickly affection can morph into ownership. Phrases like, "We've watched them grow," or "They wouldn't be here without us," surface repeatedly, revealing a sense of entitlement that may not be intentional, but is powerful nonetheless. When HYBE hints at privacy, it challenges that entitlement, even if indirectly. It suggests that support does not equate to access, and love does not grant unlimited permission. For a fandom built on emotional closeness, that suggestion feels destabilizing. At the same time, the industry cannot ignore the reality that fans are not a monolith. ARMY is vast, diverse, and global, with countless interpretations of what respect and support look like. Managing that diversity is nearly impossible, which is why corporate language around privacy often feels vague. Vague enough to avoid escalation, yet clear enough to signal concern. That ambiguity, however, leaves room for speculation, and speculation is fertile ground for anxiety. Emotionally, this situation has prompted introspection among fans who never imagined they would question their own behavior. Many have begun asking themselves why they feel so invested in such a small moment, why a brief glance or playful pose can carry such emotional weight. The answers are rarely simple. For some, BTS has been a source of comfort during difficult periods of life. The members feel familiar, almost like constants in an unpredictable world. When boundaries are introduced, it can feel like losing a piece of that stability.